Oh, yes! It was an Islander victory last night. From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Friday. It is the 17th day of February 2017, and what a win for the New York Islanders last night. 6-1 and 0 against the New York Rangers in their last 7 meetings. And I'll tell you what, this was a good one. It was a very good one. You have the absolutely boneheaded mistake that leads to the goal from Hayes at the beginning of the game in the first period after, I believe it was Hayes coming out of the penalty box. Two idiots run into each other. If I remember correctly, I believe it was Ladd and Dahan. They said on air it was Quine and Dahan. I believe it was Ladd and Dahan that collided at the Islander blue line. Sorry, at the Ranger blue line. Of course, pass goes straight through. A 2-on-1 that really just could not be defended. Oh, sorry, it was Holden. A 2-on-1 that really just could not be defended leads to Holden's ninth of the year as Holden was coming out of the box. Then it was the start of the second period, and that second period was started off with what they made a lot of. If you watch, I don't know if you watched the Islander feed or the Ranger feed last night, or if you were at the game, you wouldn't have heard. But they made a big deal about that save on Michael Grabner at the beginning of the second period. It was a 2-on-1. I believe it was Miller to Grabner on the other side of the net, and it looked like it was a rather controlled save. I mean, it didn't look as though Grice had too much trouble with it. He looked as though he was in perfect position for it. But everyone, whether it was DiPietro, the girl, whoever the girl is, whose name escapes me, or Butch Goring, I mean, they made a big deal of the save at the beginning of the period, and those are always. You always hear goals at the beginning of the period are the killers. At the beginning or the end of a period, those are the killers. And I said it. I said it earlier this week that the goaltender is the most important player on the ice. And what did that turn into for the Islanders? That big save turned into a 10 to 13 minute flurry where the Islanders were in the Rangers zone constantly. And when I say constantly, it wasn't even close. From the Lee goal, which was an absolutely beautiful pass from Tavares, a great seeing eye pass from Josh Bailey, getting the puck to a spot that he knew Anders Lee was eventually going to cross into. That was a fantastic pass there. Then the Andrew Ladd goal, which was all hustle by Steven Giunta. That was a pure hustle goal. The Islanders dump it in just to make a line change. Giunta sees Jordan Stahl not paying attention, picks his pocket back from behind the net. Ladd standing out in front, wide open, and buries it top shelf. A big momentum shift there, and it turned into a very. I mean, the penalty on, I believe it was Bailey, at the end of the second period, that was not, there's no question about that. That was a high stick. But what the officials missed was the slash that happened right before that. I believe on McDonough, if I remember correctly. McDonough slashes Bailey's stick, and then Bailey goes up and hits him. Now, Drew Blood, I don't care what you say. I don't care if they said it was an interpretation. I've always been told that if you draw blood, it's a 4 minute double minor, period. And that's the way the referees play. There was an incident, that's the way the referees call it, because there was an incident 2 weeks ago with the Anaheim Ducks. I believe they were playing Dallas, where Ryan Getzlaf gets high sticked in the eye, and immediately just goes and covers his eyes, skates off to the bench. As he's going back into the locker room, he hears the call that it's a 2 minute minor. He comes back on the ice, shows the official his eye, and he's bleeding out just from under his eye, and the official changes it to a 4 minute double minor. So I don't want to hear this garbage about, and I don't want to hear this from the Islander broadcasters that it was an interpretation call, or that it's done with intent to injure, garners a 4 minute minor. That is a 4 minute double minor if you draw blood, and Bailey drew a lot of it. So the Islanders are in a bad spot to start the period. They're on a 3 minute 59 second kill to start the beginning of the period. Just a gritty play, a determination play between Cizikas and Nikolai Kulemin. Kulemin gets the shorty. Islanders go up 3-1. They're up 3-1 for all of 43 seconds as Jimmy Vesey scores his 14th of the year just before that power play expires. About 6 seconds left on the power play. That was goaltender interference. And Doug Waite was right to be hot. That was goaltender interference. You cannot shove your stick into the chest of the goaltender. You can't do that. Shot comes in. Greiss makes the save. Nash has his stick in Greiss's chest. Then he gets pushed over the goaltender. Then he gets pushed over Greiss, not allowing Greiss to make the save. Forget about being pushed over. If he would have fallen over Greiss without getting pushed, that's goaltender interference automatically. But because he was pushed, it's not. It's the stick before he gets pushed that's the issue. Good on Jimmy Vesey for getting it through, but that is not a goal. And then Andrew Ladd he gets past center ice for the empty netter. The Islanders had several chances in the last 20 seconds of the game with the empty net. I believe Ladd had 2 shots looking for his hat trick. Tavares had a shot. They had a guy playing. The Rangers had a defenseman playing goal. The last 20 seconds was insane. But what that does is, again, now that establishes the Islanders 2-1, 2-1-0 against the Rangers this year, 6-1-0 against the Rangers over the last 2 years. The Rangers have not won a game in the Barclays Center. They've lost both games there 4-2. They've got one more game on March 22nd at Madison Square Garden. But what this does now, more than anything else, is it helps the Islanders with their playoff run. Because to take down the Rangers like that, now you're 1 point behind the Toronto Maple Leafs, who play tonight. Who play tomorrow against Ottawa. So both the Islanders and Toronto both play tomorrow night. Islanders are playing the Devils, who are coming off a 3-0 loss against Ottawa. Toronto is at home against the Sens. Toronto is 1 point out of third place in the Atlantic. The Islanders are 1 point out of a wild card spot. If Toronto does beat Boston, that pushes Boston down to the second wild card spot. And if the Islanders win, they're tied with Boston. And the tiebreaker would go to playoff and overtime wins. Playoff plus overtime. Regulation plus overtime wins. That would go to Boston. Islanders have 25. The Bruins have 27, but the Bruins would have one game in hand on the Islanders after tomorrow. And Boston's got to go to San Jose on the 19th. So, I mean, you have a properly big game coming up tomorrow night against the New Jersey Devils, and 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all within 7 points of each other in the Metropolitan. Here's the big here's the big look see for the Islanders right now. They are playing a team in the New Jersey Devils that have allowed 31 more goals than they have scored. They've scored 131 and have allowed 162. The Islanders have scored 166, they've allowed 167. So they are playing a team that has allowed a lot of goals this year. Third highest goal differential in the NHL this year. Colorado has the highest. They're at minus 77. Good flipping Lord. And Arizona's minus 41. The Devils are minus 31. And as far as goals against, period, the Devils have allowed 5 less goals than the Islanders this year. So you have a properly big game coming up for the Islanders tomorrow night. But last night, a massive win breaks the Rangers' 6-game winning streak. Rangers are now 7-3-0 in their last 10. Islanders are still 6-3-1 in their last 10. The Rangers securely in that first wild card spot, fighting for third place in the division, which they could have tied with Columbus last night. And if they would have tied with Columbus, they would have gone up into third, and Columbus would have taken the wild card spot. One more regulation and overtime win. Rangers have 35, Columbus has 34. But to watch that game last night, if you're an Islander fan, you're getting into it's not the nitty gritty part of the season. This is you have to play well or else you're not making the playoffs part of the season. And against the Rangers, who have been, over the last 10 games, other than the Washington Capitals, have been the hottest team in the NHL. Again, 6-game winning streak, 8-2-0 going into last night. The Rangers, to beat the Rangers for the Islanders, just goes to show that they are up for the task. And if they play every game the way they played in that second period, they will be very, very okay. Still 13 points out of fighting for fourth. But you can secure, your fight now is with Boston, Toronto, and Florida. And Toronto, Boston, Florida, and Philadelphia. That is who your fight is with right now. Don't concern yourself with the Rangers. Don't concern yourself with fourth place. Focus on those five other teams: Philadelphia, Boston, Toronto, Florida. Focus on those four teams. That's it. And Ottawa, because Ottawa's pretty close as well. Focus on those five teams, and the Islanders will be just fine. And again, like we went over yesterday, they are going to be playing a lot of playoff teams. It's go time now for the Islanders. It is go time. And last night was one hell of a start. You're listening to Frank Fired Up. We'll be right back after this with the incredibly confusing Darrell Revis story when we return. Back after this. All right, we're back. You listen to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. This whole thing with Darrell Revis, I mean, it's the textbook spelling of a disaster. I mean, we've seen so many other athletes who have had this problem, and I mean, and athletes have this issue every day with people coming up to them wanting to videotape and record interactions, pictures, just hounding with questions, this and that. Um, so if you believe the Darrell Revis story, the Darrell Revis story is that on Sunday morning at around a quarter to 3 a.m., quarter to 3 a.m., Darrell Revis is in his hometown of Alquippa, Pennsylvania. Alquippa, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. He was scouting out locations for I believe it was a home that he was going to build, I believe is what it said. When five men who alleged now this is from Blaine Jones Law, which is Revis's lawyer in this case, which is where Revis's lawyers are coming from. The cornerback was involved in an altercation with five men who allegedly attacked him while he was home visiting friends and family over the weekend, this past weekend. The lawyer claims Revis, quote, feared for his safety and eventually went to go get medical treatment. So now I will read you the police report and then Revis's attorney, and then we'll kind of decide from there who was right. This is from the Pittsburgh Department of Public Safety. On Sunday, February 12th at approximately 2:43 a.m., Zone 3 officers responded to a call that two males had been knocked unconscious. According to the investigation, a 22-year-old man from Kittanning, Kittanning, was walking along East Carson Street when he spotted a male who resembled Darrell Revis, a cornerback in the NFL. He asked the man if he was Darrell Revis, and he confirmed that he was. The man began recording the interaction on his cell phone and continued following Revis. At this point, Revis snatched the cell phone away and attempted to delete the video. Another 21-year-old male from Ross Township attempted to help the 22-year-old retrieve the cell phone. Revis then tossed the phone into the street. A verbal argument followed. A male came to assist Revis, and both the 22-year-old and the 21-year-old state that they were punched and then remembered waking up to talk to police. Witnesses say the two were unconscious for about 10 minutes. The officer viewed the cell phone video and confirmed that the person was Revis. He has since been charged. Now that was the Pittsburgh Department of Public Safety. He has since been charged with 2 counts of felony assault. 1 count of felony robbery, 1 count of conspiracy, and a misdemeanor, 1 felony count of a conspiracy, and 1 misdemeanor count of terroristic threats. Which in this case, terroristic threats would be, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kick your ass, I'm going to, that's what they would consider terroristic threats in this sense. Conspiracy, though, I don't get. Robbery, I'm assuming because he snatched the phone. This stroke of comedy genius is from Darrell Revis's attorney. Mr. Revis came home to Pittsburgh this past weekend to visit family and friends. During that time, Mr. Revis went by a location on the south side, a neighborhood in Southside, a neighborhood in Pittsburgh, that he is in the process of developing. So he's out at 2:43 in the morning scouting a development project. Mr. Revis was physically assaulted while at the location by a group of at least 5 people. Mr. Revis feared for his safety and retreated from the aggressors. Mr. Revis was not arrested after this incident. Mr. Revis sought medical attention as a result of the aforementioned attack. Okay. The police report I buy. I totally can see, because I was a 22-year-old male at one point, not that long ago either. Not that long ago also. If you see a famous person, you are going to go up to them and you are going to record your interaction with them. That I completely believe. I also completely believe that this kid got a little too overzealous and started to follow Mr. Darrell Revis for as long as he possibly could. I can also see, which it doesn't state in this, I can also see that this kid was also hounding Darrell Revis with questions as to why Revis got annoyed. I can definitely see Revis snatching the phone. I could definitely see the two climbing all over Revis to try to get it back. And then some dude, somebody, some guy that Darrell Revis knows comes over and knocks them both out. I believe the police story. I believe that Revis was there to visit family. I also believe that Darrell Revis was minding his own business when this happened. I believe that Revis was not an instigator in this. I believe that Revis did not want to be involved in this. But I think the most important thing is location, location, location. You always hear it. You're scouting a development at 2:43 a.m. a.m. in the morning. a.m. I've gone to sites where I've looked over what they're doing just out of my own curiosity. I've never done it at 2:45 in the morning. So what Darrell Revis was really doing where he was, I think is up in the air. I believe the story. Everything makes sense, and if you listen to Boomer and Carton this morning, Chris Sims was filling in for Boomer. Uh, Chris Sims told a story of while he was in Texas. He had one big lineman. He had a guy. He went to a club or a bar with a big lineman in Texas, and this guy walks up to him, mad because he was talking to his girl, and the player goes, "Listen, I don't want anything to do with this. Just back off." Now this dude, who he said was 6'5", 350. I mean, a massive guy. So the guy leaves. He goes back and gets his buddy, and then confronts the player again with this other guy. They started to back him into a corner, and then all of a sudden, fists are flying. The player gets charged, and that's it. He didn't want to be involved in it. He wasn't starting nothing, but he got involved. I believe that could be this case. Regardless of any of that, Darrelle Revis' time as a Jet is now done. He is no longer a Jet. He's owed $9.5 million this year. Another $2 million if he's on the roster on March 10th. So if he gets cut, it's going to be before March 10th. Or if he gets bought out, which is going to cost the Jets $6 million. He's not going to be a Jet on or after March 10th. Police in Pittsburgh say they have the video. I want to see the video. After I see the video, then I will put my stamp on Darrelle Revis. But when I read this story, I hear two dumb adolescents were excited that they saw Darrelle Revis. They videotaped it. They started to ask him questions. They started to get under his skin. Revis at some point couldn't take it anymore. Snatched the phone. Those two try to get the phone back. One of Darrelle Revis' guys steps in, says, "Get off Darrelle," and then they're laying on the floor. Sounds like a completely logical story to me. Sounds like it could have happened that way. I don't believe this Revis was in Southside processing looking over a development when he was attacked by 5 guys. If that was the case, where'd the other 3 go? Where did the other 3 go if there were 5 guys? They just knocked 2 out and that was it? And there are witnesses to this. Where are the other 3 guys? The witnesses only report 2. Where are the other 5? It sounds like a logical story. It sounds like it could have happened. And it sounds like a situation that Revis really, genuinely didn't want to get in the middle of. It sounds like Revis was forced into a situation that he did not want to be a part of. I mean, sure, if you're an NFL player and you're seen walking down the street, of course people are going to ask you to stop. Of course people are going to ask you for pictures. Of course people are going to ask you to talk to them. You don't then go following the guy with your camera like you're on TMZ. That's where you step over the line. And that is where a guy like Darrelle Revis is going to take exception. Listen, I gave you what you wanted. Now you're hounding me. Go away. Words are exchanged. All right, you know what? Give me that phone. Hey, that's my phone. Give it back. Reach, grab, reach. Now his help is involved. To think that Darrelle Revis would be alone at 3 o'clock in the morning in a suburb in Pittsburgh, you are out of your flipping mind if you think he's alone. He is not alone. He by no means is alone. So it's up to you. It's up to you to decide what you think. Whether or not Revis was what I think, which is Revis was forced into a situation he didn't want to be a part of, or that Revis instigated it, didn't want to be around, didn't want to talk to the people. They started to, "Oh, come on, man," and then instigated it. If you want to believe that, fine. I want to see that video. And again, the thing that surprised me was I thought this happened last night. This happened on Sunday. This happened nearly a week ago. Darrell Revis, the star cornerback, or what used to be a star cornerback in the NFL, knocks two people out and no one hears a thing until a week later when he's charged. That, to me, in this day and age, with all this social media and everything, that's the stunning part to me. So, again, Darrell Revis charged with four felonies and a misdemeanor, two felony counts of aggravated assault, one felony count of robbery, again, I would assume for snatching the phone, one felony charge of conspiracy, which that I don't get, and one misdemeanor terroristic threats, which is I'm going to kick your ass, I'm going to kill you, this, that. So that is it. Again, take what you want out of the Darrell Revis case. I'm sure we'll hear more about it over the course of the weekend, and I'm sure we'll probably make our way back to it on Monday. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. We'll wrap up the program when we return. Back after this. All right, we're back. You're listening to Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network. Just wrapping up the show now. The Mets yesterday officially announcing that Noah Syndergaard will be the opening day starter. Why they felt the need to do that in the middle of February is beyond me. Again, I know it's obvious. Like, it's obvious that Clayton Kershaw is going to be the opening day starter for the Dodgers. Like, it's obvious that Madison Bumgarner is going to be the opening day starter for San Francisco. You don't have to announce it in the middle of February. You couldn't have waited a month. I understand you want to get the questions out of the way. You don't want to have to deal with that. But, come on. Really? The middle of February? That and the Yankees have also officially announced their opening day starter, Masahiro Tanaka, which you knew was going to happen, and they announced it before the Mets did. That one, I think, blew past everyone. But there is news out of Yankee camp today, and that is that Tyler Austin, who was set to platoon with Greg Bird over at first base, taking most of the at-bats against lefties this year, has broken his foot. One day before Yankees position players were scheduled to report to camp, Austin was diagnosed with a small fracture in his left foot. He will wear a boot for 3 weeks and not resume baseball activity for at least 6. So if you're rooting for Tyler Austin to possibly win a spot over Greg Bird, that's not happening now. He hit 241, 20 for 83 with 5 home runs, 12 RBIs over 31 games last year for the Yankees. So you have that. Unfortunate for Tyler Austin, definitely. And again, out of Met camp, Noah Syndergaard, your opening day starter. So to the ice. NHL last night, the Islanders beating the Rangers 4-2 as we went over. The Ottawa Senators beating the Devils 2-0. Those were yesterday's games. Tonight, nothing local, all national. You have Pittsburgh and Columbus on the NHL network. So there you go. So there's that. Starting tomorrow, though, at 7 o'clock on MSG and MSG Plus, you have the Islanders and the Devils from the Rock. Sunday, you have the Rangers and the Caps. They'll play at 12:30 at the Garden on NBC. Islanders will play the Devils at 6 in the back half of a home and home. That game will be at the Barclays Center. NBA, last night, if you watched the end of that Celtics-Bulls game, was absolutely atrocious. Celtics go up 103 to 102. Chicago calls a timeout. Inbounds to Jimmy Butler, who lets the clock run down, goes in to drive, and then pulls up. Gets, quote-unquote, fouled by Marcus Smart. Butler hits both free throws. Bulls win 104-103. The problem with that is Marcus Smart never touched Jimmy Butler, and the Celtics had one stolen from them, which was absolutely unbelievable. You have the rookie-sophomore game tonight, including you have the replay of the celebrity game tonight, which no one cares about. You have the skills challenge tomorrow, and then you have the All-Star game on Sunday. And that would be where we would end the show. However, NASCAR is back. It is a racing weekend, and tomorrow night will be the Advanced Auto Parts Clash at Daytona. Now, in order to... This is an exclusive race. In order to be eligible to race in the Clash, you have to have either A, won a pole award last year, or B, made it to the chase. So there were 17 guys that were eligible from last year. Only 16 only 16 of those 17 are going to race. There are 17 cars in the field though. Brad Keselowski will start on pole. He was both pole award and in the chase. Denny Hamlin, both. Jamie McMurray made it to the I believe actually both. No, Jamie McMurray was in the chase last year, so he's in. He'll start third. Austin Dillon, both. Martin Truex Jr., both. Jimmy Johnson, both. Kevin Harvick, both. Alex Bowman was a pole winner last year. He's in. He'll start eighth. Joey Logano, both. Kurt Busch, both. Kyle Larson was in the chase last year. He'll start 11th. Danica Patrick was neither. She will take Greg Biffle's spot. Biffle was a pole winner last year. Kyle Busch will start 13th. Both. Chase Elliott was both last year. He'll start 14th. Matt Kenseth, both 15th. Daniel Suarez takes Carl Edwards' spot now that he's replacing him on a permanent basis. Suarez takes Carl Edwards' spot. Both. Chris Buescher was in the chase last year, having won it. I believe it was Daytona. He, based off the fact that he was in the chase, will start 17th. That and the Clash will be tomorrow night if you want. NASCAR right now on Fox Sports 1 practice for the Clash tomorrow night. So that'll do it for the program today. Before I close out the program though, I do want to say that if you've listened to the program last year and if you listened about 3 months ago, you guys know that my brother on November 27th left for boot camp to become a United States Marine. Starting at 2 a.m. on the 14th, so on Valentine's Day. 2 a.m. on the 14th, he started the Crucible, which, if you don't know what the Crucible is, it is essentially the final test. And if you finish the test, you become a Marine officially. The Crucible is 54 hours, goes over, I think like 48 miles, carrying 45 pounds of gear. You have 29 teamwork, puzzle related activities, and only 6 to 8 hours of sleep over the course of that 45-hour period. I am very, very proud to say that at 8 a.m. on February 16th, my brother officially became a United States Marine. Like I said, I could not be prouder to say that. I'm extremely proud for him. I knew he was going to do it. So with that being said, we will not have shows next Thursday and Friday. Next Thursday is Family Day, which will be the first time I'm actually able to see him since the day he left. And then Friday is the graduation.